Welcome to Finding the Inner Strength podcast with myself, Cheryl. We are on episode 4. Woohoo! Episode 4, which means it's been almost 4 weeks since I've started sharing my life with you all and experiences. And yeah, it's been quite a nice little ride. I find that with a mic, no video, it's so much easier to express myself to you all. And I know we have, or there is video podcasts also, but I think right now for myself, I like taking out the visual and just having the audio, the hearing. And it's like one of our senses, and we're so bombarded with so much visual with social media, TV, just everyday life, walking around looking at things. I feel that this audio alone is a good way of working on balancing, just focusing on sound and hearing. I find when I add in video, which I do have videos, as I do also do yoga videos, and I just find with taking that out for the podcast, I take away that extra layer of, how's my hair look? Am I centered? How's the lighting? Is this working? Is the mic really coming through on the camera? And yeah, so this is why right now it's just an audio podcast. And I think it's a good way of just tuning out, I shouldn't say tuning out, taking away the visual and just allowing myself and you as the listener just take it in verbally. And there's so much out there to distract us visually that we tend to forget that sometimes it's just nice to sit or to walk or whatever with just a sound. And I hope that makes sense, because I find listening to podcasts easier also for myself without the visual. I find if there's a visual, I'm not getting anything else done. Like I just stare and get lost. So this is what I'm going with right now with my podcast. If you're just new to tuning in, this podcast is, I'm hoping, to create a community for a safe space to listen, to open up about what I've experienced through my life, mentally and physically. And I think opening up allows other people to see that they're not alone. And it could seem like the simplest, not kind of mundane thing, that's, we question ourselves that, do we have a right to feel a certain way if something's happening in our life or something happens to us? And if we compare it to other things that happen on this planet, they don't seem as important. But I feel that sharing where I'm at with my journey, it'll give this space for people to realize that no matter how small something might feel, it can play a big part on how you are with your mental health and your physical health. So just a little bit of a background there if you haven't listened to the other episodes. For today, I thought I know on episode 3 I left off where when I was at one of the resorts, a 55 plus resort, and just how it made me feel and kind of brought me back to how I kind of took a dive in my mental health up in Yellowknife. But I thought I'd kind of pause there on mental health and move over to my journey with my physical health. And it's funny because being a mid-40s woman or human being, because I think I also watch my husband, and he's got a lot of physical things going on too, and he's just a year older than me, and it's funny when you reach your mid 40s, or for me, I wasn't expecting my physical abilities to be where they are now. And this is where I'm going to take you a little bit back on the history of me as a physical human being and where I'm at now. So, when I was little, I was very, very active, had tons of energy, and just by, I think it was grade 5, started playing basketball in elementary school, even into junior high, which is middle school, played basketball. Then when high school hit, I didn't play basketball because our family was relocated to a new town, and I was in a new area, new friend, trying to make new friends. And for some reason, I did not try out for basketball. I have no idea why I didn't, but I did. I was also in band. So, and the band program at this school was really, really good. And I just seemed to want to focus on that at the time. And honestly, no regrets with that. So through high school, like I'd work out and stuff, but nothing really crazy like with sports or anything. Then I met my now husband when I was in high school, and we started dating when I was 15 and he was 16. And after I graduated from high school, I went to college, got a diploma in travel and tourism, and then I got on an airplane and moved to Alberta, Canada, so I could be with Ken, my husband today. So physically, I was going to the gym, doing classes like exercise classes, and just really loved staying fit. It was really important to me. And my husband would always say to me when we would go to the gym, and he was extremely fit. He was in the infantry in the Canadian Armed Forces, and he would spend between 2 to 3 hours a day at the gym. I would be at the gym for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours at the most, and lifted weights, did cardio, and he would always say to me, he's like, you got to stretch, you got to warm up. I'm like, I don't need to do that. That's beneath me, is the way I looked at it. Like I could easily go work out and always just get something done. I felt like stretching and warming up was a waste of time. So from there, we ended up having kids. So I was 22, 23 when we had our kids, and we ended up moving to New Brunswick. We got a posting to New Brunswick, and again, working out at the gym, and started running because for years Ken would say, hey, do you want to go for a run? I'm like, why would I run somewhere if I could either drive or walk there? I thought running was mundane and had no purpose. And I don't know. It just, this is what I decided. Oh, and before we went to New Brunswick, this is where the running came into effect. Ken was on tour, one of his tours overseas, and I had the 2 kids, and I just felt like I needed something for myself, but I might be able to do with the kids. And I started working at the running room and doing Learn to Run program. Actually, I did the Learn to Run program before that. Then I applied at the running room to work to give myself a little bit of extra income. Started instructing running groups and even walking groups, and I absolutely loved it. I loved, I know it sounds funny, loved running. And still, even when Ken came home from tour, he's like, shouldn't you warm up or stretch before you run? I'm like, I don't need to do that. So anyways, we moved to New Brunswick, started working at the running room there, running clubs, friends, working out at the gym. And then one day I tried a yoga class at the base gym at Gagetown, and it was it was funny because I went in apprehensively because I tried yoga one other time, and it was when I was pregnant with my first child, Ty, and it was a VHS. Yeah, I'm aging myself. You know, I'm mid-40s, but that tells you something. It was VHS, and very pregnant, and I tried this VHS yoga, and I started falling asleep. I was so bored. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I do not enjoy yoga at all. So fast forward to New Brunswick, where the kids were 4 and 2.5, almost 3 when we moved to New Brunswick. So, like I said, got into running again there. I was doing workouts at the base gym, exercise classes from spin, step, cardio, and running. And then there just happened to be a yoga program at the base gym, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. Absolutely fell in love with this program. Had no idea what type of yoga it was. It just, I could tell my body needed it, especially, oh, and I did a tiny bit of CrossFit before that. Like my husband, he got a level 1, so I was learning CrossFit still till I did that yoga class, not stretching, not doing anything for my fascia muscles to keep them limber. And after that first yoga class at the base gym in New Brunswick, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. I like how it makes me feel. I even noticed I felt more calm. So even when Ken was away with trainings or whatever, instructing courses, I would get a friend to come watch the kids, and I would go to yoga twice a week. Absolutely loved it. Did a couple of marathons when we were in New Brunswick, half marathons. I did one in Fredericton and one in Halifax, and loved it. I noticed that my IT band was not a happy camper, but I pushed through it. Did what I could to physically get it done. We were in New Brunswick for about 5 years and then got posted back to Edmonton. And from there, we lived not close to the base gym. So I don't think I went to the gym as much. I was running and doing yoga. Isn't it funny how your memory works or doesn't work? I'm like, did I go to the base gym when we lived just back in Edmonton? I don't think I did. Yeah, I don't think I was actually lifting weights or doing anything on that count. It was more focusing on the running, yoga, looking after kids. So from there, we were in Gibbons which is where we were living. We were out back close to Edmonton. We got a posting to Yellowknife, and that posting, like as I said in my other episodes, was around 2014 is when we moved there, and started eventually, I was running still, walking, yoga, and then there was a gym there, the Racket Club. Went there a little bit for weightlifting stuff, but nothing crazy. And then I got my yoga certification, my first 200 hours as an instructor. And I just soaked that up like there was no tomorrow. Absolutely loved teaching yoga. And so I was doing yoga for at least 5 times a week minimum as instructing, plus probably doing my own self-practice. And we were like, so that was 2015. Then we moved to still teaching all the way through till 2021. We moved to Cochrane, still running a little bit. And then I started teaching at 2 places in Cochrane, have more certifications, especially over COVID. I was doing video classes. I did more certifications. So now I have over 1,000 hours in yoga instructing, everything from Vinyasa, Shivananda, Hatha, Yin, Power Yin, Nidra, a little bit of restorative, teaching kids, teaching athletes. Absolutely love teaching. So we get to Cochrane, and I start teaching at 2 places. Well, first one studio, and then I went to another one also just to get extra hours, and again, love to teach. So probably around 2022, I would say into 23, the early months of 23, I started getting pain in my lower back, like my SI joint area and QL on my right side. And it was just getting progressively worse. And going for massages, going to osteo for that pain. And then my neck was just getting worse and worse, like sometimes not being able to rotate it right to left. It would lock up, cracking. And I was like, well, I don't know what's going on. I'm only in my 40s, this whatever, right? So eventually went to a chiropractor and did an assessment with them. And one of their findings was diastasis recti, which I never heard of, honestly. Like, I had no idea what it was. And in probably the majority, well, a good chunk of you know what that is. And that's the separation of the abdominal wall muscles. And probably was like that since I had my kids. And I had my kids fairly close. I was pregnant with our second when Ty was only 7 months old. So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of starting to make sense, because if those muscles aren't strong, and then it's going to be putting extra load onto my lower back. So cut back doing vinyasa classes, just stuck with more gentle classes, but still forward folds and everything just killed me. Like eventually, like I couldn't even fold forward. It just hurt so bad. And then this past year, I finally said to my doctor, I was like, hey, there's a possibility of me having this abdominal wall separation, and I am an active person. Like, oh, that's the other thing. We always go on hikes. We paddleboard, like stand-up paddleboard. So those are other things that I do all the time, and well, a good chunk of the time. And I'm like, my back pain was chronic by this point. So 44, 45 years old, chronic back pain. Chronic. Sometimes it would lock up and I'd be laying down in pain, like not being able to do anything. So my doctor sent me for tests on my lower back, like so x-rays, also did ultrasound on my abdominal, like my belly. And then so that's what I did. Actually, not too long ago. So in May, I went and had that. This summer, I had that done. So it came back with my lower back. They said, okay, I have a little bit of So first abdominal, so the front of my torso. I have a little bit of diastasis recti, not as big as I thought, not enough to cause the pain that I was getting in my lower back as extreme as it was. Also, I might possibly have this thing called, this hypothesis from the technicians, is a slipping rib syndrome, because sometimes it feels like my muscles getting caught underneath my rib cage. But what was more devastating for me was that my lumbar spine into my sacral, my S1, just this level of facet joint arthritis, degenerative disc disease, and there was one other thing, but I think it was just another form of arthritis, was pretty present in my lumbar spine into my S1, sacral one. And I just wanted to cry. Because I wanted that quick fix. I wanted it to be the diastasis recti. So it's like, okay, this is chronic pain. I just want surgery. And I'm not one that usually resorts to surgery. But I was to that point where I just felt like I couldn't do my job anymore without surgery because of the diastasis recti. And when this came out in the finding of how my lumbar spine was, I think I cried a little bit. I laid on the couch. I felt defeated because it wasn't something that could be fixed with a surgery or medication to take it away. Now, I also looked at it as, okay, knowledge is power. I can, work with this. But it was very disheartening too. from there, I was like, well, if I have this in my spine, my lumbar spine and S1 sacral, what's going on with my C-spine, cervical spine, so the top part of our spine that goes to the base of the skull. I did have an accident just past November 2023, when we were away, that I actually hit my head. And I'm like, well, since then my neck's been worse, so maybe I did something to my neck with hitting my head. So I asked my doctor, did a phone consult. I'm like, you know what? I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but maybe I'd like to have my C-spine looked at. So I went and had that done and got the results the next day. And I just, again, wanted to cry. Again, forms of arthritis, degenerative disc disease. I also have a condition called retrolisthesis, which when I did a little bit more research on that. It says if you have it, that's when you learn what the word is, because it's not very well known. So basically I have two vertebrae that move in a direction that they're not supposed to. And it's not a huge movement, but it's enough that causes chronic pain in my spine, in my upper back, up to the right side of my neck, going into the skull, which causes migraines. So I knew the other things that caused migraines for me, but this can cause severe migraines also, because it's putting pressure points up into my vagus nerve and whatever. So that was pretty disheartening, but again, knowledge is power. So back to those days that Ken said you should warm up or stretch. He was right, but I was very stubborn. And I was young, I was foolish, and I just didn't want to listen to his knowledge on things. And now that I'm in my mid-40s and I feel like I have a body of, it's actually not fair to put an age on a human body, because I've seen seniors, people older than me, that have amazing mobility and no pain. So I have this information, but I still feel kind of stuck, because now I have to get over the mental fear of doing something physical and being scared that I'm going to be in pain. It is not fun. It is not something that I can just turn off. I'm on a journey of physical things that I can do to ease that pain and maybe eventually not erase it, but make it where I'm not in pain, I guess is what I'm trying to say, or as much pain. It's a mind, I'll say it, it's a mind fuck. And that's the first swear word I've said in my podcasts. But it's so hard to know how I was able for years to just do what I wanted to do. And now I need to retrain my brain to take the fear out of doing something physical. And I mean more as in lifting weights, learning to move in a way that is natural for my body, to strengthen parts of my body, to relieve the pain in my lower back and my neck. Like when Ken and I go hiking, right now I do not carry a backpack, because halfway through I start getting a migraine because of the strain on my neck. So if any of you know something that I can carry around my waist so I can take my own water, because right now Ken's my powerhouse and he takes everything for me. But it's so frustrating because I don't like relying on him or anyone to carry things for me. I've been very stubborn and strong my whole life, and I'm now to a point where the concern of me getting hurt even more or straining something and not being able to move afterwards. So my physical abilities aren't where they were before, and being 46 just, to me, is just, it's too young to feel like this. I'm also probably hypermobile, and when you're hypermobile and you push yourself into practices with extensive stretching, you're actually pushing your body further than you should, especially when you're hypermobile, because you don't have a feel for that sensation. So you push your body even further to get to that sensation. And it's, you think you're doing good, but when soon enough you learn it's not. Doing too much or going to the full throttle, the full threshold of what your body can do, can actually have quite a negative impact on your physical body, your fascia, your muscle, your joints. It's it's a hard one. And I love when I teach people to move how their body is meant to move. And what I mean by that, and this is just a little bit of I'll talk more about it in another episode, but I learned through the years with being a yoga teacher and with all the training I've done so far and more, that even though there's lots of us out there, yoga instructors and teachers, we are not doctors. We are not. And I wish I had that knowledge when I was just a student in yoga, because there's adjustments happening, there's things saying we have to look a certain way, and it, to a certain point, is not true, because we could be putting our bodies into a movement or a position that is actually harmful. And yeah, I won't go down that rabbit hole right now, because that would be a whole other episode or two with my yoga training and background. So physically, I walk every day. I like to run. I try to run at least once a week, every 2 weeks, because running, unfortunately, is not good for my spine, but man, do I love it. Absolutely love running. I should get a bike. I really should. Ken has a bike. I need a bike. And go on hikes all the time with Ken and Gracie. Gracie's our dog. But I want you to take away from this, be extremely mindful, be inquisitive, investigate, know your body, because no matter what age you are, without that inquisitiveness and knowledge, and just assuming what you're doing is okay because someone's telling you, because they have a little certificate with certain hours, but not a medical certificate. Trust me, it's a hard pill to swallow when you can finally tell your spouse they were right. Actually, I don't know if I told him that yet. If he's listening to this, he'll hear it on here. So there you go, a little bit of synopsis on my physical health, from being limber and crazy and all over the place to now walking around like I should have a cane sometimes because of how my back gets and my neck gets. If you have any feedback, please feel free to send it off to me. Either send a comment on one of the apps that this podcast is on, from Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Send me a comment, send me a DM. You can find me on Facebook, Yoga in Small Spaces with Cheryl, or on Instagram, Yoga in Small Spaces. You can also find me at my website, which is www.yogainSmallSpaces.com. And there's a newsletter there. If you tap onto that, you can get weekly to bi-weekly updates on when podcasts are released, and also where I'm going to be, because right now hubby and I are on the road. We are heading down south. Right now we're in British Columbia. We're going to be heading down south here soon, and lots of stuff coming up. So thank you again for joining me, episode 4 of Finding the Inner Strength podcast. Have a great day, a great day, month, a great week. My brain is scattered. Whoever knows me knows what I'm like. Anyways, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Or sorry, you'll hear me next time. Bye.